Puts this out, highlighting Narendra Modi's key achievements since 2014 he took charge. In a sensational twist in the Indore couple case, wife Sonam is said to have planned the husband's murder. The police say that she had hired contract killers days after the wedding to get her husband eliminated. Massive fire on cargo ship off Kerala coast, 18 rescued, 4 said to be missing after explosions rock Singapore flagged vessel. RCB marketing head alleges political arrest in Stampede case. Karnataka High Court to hear interim relief plea after Sosle blames Chief Minister's orders for detention, claiming the government was very well within the planning committee, or rather without the government's permission this event wouldn't have taken place, so this was a political arrest. I've done nothing. Karnataka High Court delays the Thug Life release to June 10th. Court notes Kamal Haasan's letter lacks explicit apology to the KFCC. 5 dead in Mumbai. Local train horror near Mumbra. Overcrowding coaches led to the fatal mishap, and many of them were seen hanging at the footstep of the train while the train was speeding. Some of them fell off. A probe has now been ordered. Violence erupts in Los Angeles. Unending violence and protests amid immigration arrests. Protests have turned violent as Trump deploys National Guard to control the unrest. People there protesting, claiming racial discrimination, which is why people there, immigrants, are being thrown out as per their race. That should stop. Protests there heating up. 6 killed as gunmen fire on Gaza food line. Say Palestinians clash near Rafah involves Israeli forces and allied gunmen. Weather delays. IAF pilot Shubhanshu Shukla's Axiom 4 space mission by day. Shubham will be the first Indian astronaut at the International Space Station. We, of course, will be tracking this very closely. Unfortunately, a very sad, tragic and gory story that I bring to you as my first story today right here on Unmissable. A murder that happened in Meghalaya. We hear that the wife of the man plotted, hired contract killers to execute this crime right during their honeymoon. This honeymoon that turned into a murder plot. 30-year-old Raja Raghuvanshi from Indore was found dead in Meghalaya's East Kashi Hills. Police now confirm that his own wife, Sonam, has masterminded this entire killing. In fact, they were married on the 11th of May. They went off to the honeymoon vacation to Meghalaya on the 20th of May. 3 days later, there was no contact from the man there. In fact, many calls that the family members made to their son was received with silence. So, no updates, no calls, no information on where he was. On June 2nd, Raja's body had surfaced in a remote jungle stretch, completely battered and abandoned. We're showing you images, some videos of the couple there. Meghalaya DCP says and confirms that this was a pre-planned murder. Sonam Raghuvanshi, his wife, hired contract killers and then surrendered only after the case broke open. The 4th accused, Anand Kurmi, was nabbed from Madhya Pradesh, and that basically now reveals how this cold-blooded murder cut across several states, at least 3 states. Contract killers were hired from different states, so clearly shows this was entirely pre-planned. The biggest shock here, of course, that Raja's family has received was that Sonam, their newly wedded bride, who got married to their son Raja, is the woman or the murderer behind this case. Now, Sonam's intentions, what really led for her to execute this crime and murder against her own husband, is something that the police has to investigate further. We are awaiting for more elaborate information on this. But Sonam, we believe, came forward to surrender right after this news broke out and the situation escalated. She found out that the body was found by the police. She hoped that that wouldn't have happened because Raja's body was battered and left in a forest area. She assumed that they wouldn't find it. And now that the body has been found in such a state, Sonam came forward to surrender, claiming that she has pulled off this crime. Let's take a listen.
It is a fact that she called her relatives, but this has happened after all the raids were conducted. I think if you look at it, look at the logical sequence of things, all these days she hadn't come out. But last night, when Raj Kushwaha and the rest of the people were caught, suddenly she surfaces. I think that speaks for itself.
को पता जो है मेरे को गोविंद द्वारा मालूम पड़ा था, तो अभी सोनम जो है, सोनम का पता चल चुका है और सोनम जो अभी है यूपी में है और मैंने जो है वहाँ पे यूपी पुलिस को फोन लगा के सोनम को हैंडओवर करवा दिया है। ये मुझे गोविंद ने बताया गया पूरा। देखिए इसमें भी जो नया खुलासा हुआ है राज कुशवाहा का, राज कुशवाहा इसमें कभी इन्वॉल्व है, कभी तो राज कुशवाहा तो इनका एम्प्लॉयर था, कभी राज कुशवाहा इसमें इन्वॉल्व है, कभी तो इसमें हो सकता है सोनम इसमें इन्वॉल्व हो सकती है।
Now this case appears to have taken a political turn, with Meghalaya Minister Alexander Lalu Hek slamming critics who blamed police inaction. Sonam's father, meanwhile, alleges a larger cover-up here, demanding a CBI probe. We are looking at visuals there on our screens of Sonam and Raju seemingly happy right in the start of their honeymoon. They were on a bike moving about. There you have it. Some of the CCTV footage that has now been recovered shows both of them having a good start of a day while they were there in Meghalaya enjoying their honeymoon. Now, what happened post that? One has to wait for investigation to complete. Why did this newlywed bride plot her husband's murder within days of their wedding? Was there a secret lover involved? Was money involved? Was there something more sinister? We've got to wait and watch.
किस हालत में था, कैसा तड़पा था, और अगर वो सोनम उससे इतना प्यार करती थी तो वो राजा को छोड़ के इस हालत में नहीं जा सकती थी। और सोनम सुरक्षित कैसी है, सोनम के ऊपर एक खरोच क्यों नहीं आया? 3 थे, 4 जने थे, 5 जने, 6 जने, जो भी उनकी टीम थी, उनको सबको कड़ी से कड़ी सजा मिलना चाहिए। हमारी समाज में अभी तक ऐसा कोई काम नहीं हुआ था, जो आज हमारी समाज में ऐसा काम हुआ है गया, तो मतलब कड़ी से कड़ी सजा दी जाए। सरकार से मेरा एक ही निवेदन है कि मेरा बच्चा किस हालत में तड़पा, उनको भी ऐसे तड़पा तड़पा के मारो।
Truth has come out, already came out, and also it has been surfacing. So all these days, the family of Raja Rajvanshi, their friends, their brothers, and their whole family, they are blaming the police of Meghalaya, they are blaming the government of Meghalaya, and particularly, is a very shameful, blaming the people of Meghalaya. I told you also, before also I told you, we should file the defamation case against these people who are maligning the image of the state of Meghalaya and maligning the image of the people of Meghalaya. We have to file the defamation case against them.
All right, let me take you through another brutal murder that's happened, unfortunately, in my city of Bengaluru. Equally gory and horrific. The brutal murder in Bengaluru that's left the city stunned now. A 35-year-old woman, Harini R., was found stabbed to death inside her hotel room. The accused is a 25-year-old man who was reportedly in a relationship with her briefly, but couldn't handle the fact that she decided to part ways with him and then eventually stalked her and murdered her. A chilling case of love turning fatal clearly here. What began as an affair ended in entire murder, bloodshed of this kind that none would have imagined. The accused couldn't accept the fact that the woman wanted out. Harini is a mother of 2 and a resident of Banshankari 6th stage. She was stabbed 17 times at a hotel that she was at in Purna Pragna Housing Society layout. In fact, the attacker, who's Yashas, a BCA graduate from Kengeri, working at a private firm, reportedly confessed to the crime as well. The police say that when he confessed to the police, he was also found in quite a critical state, that he had tried to stab himself or kill himself. He himself reached out to the police, Kengeri police, claiming that he had done this. And by the time the police rushed, he was also injured. He was taken to the hospital. He's currently being treated for his injuries. He is, of course, in custody of the police. Harini, the girl who's been murdered, was married to Dasegowda, a 41-year-old farmer. They had two daughters aged 13 and 10. Police say that Harini met Yashas at a village fair about 3 years ago. Their friendship started off. They were familiar with one another. They did meet quite often. And she reportedly finally decided, after much of the coaxing by Tarini's parents, she decided to cut ties with Yashas. And that was something he couldn't handle. In fact, we hear that they were on and off in a relationship, and finally, when she did decide to actually cut away after her parents pressurized her to, Yashas decided to take the ugly route. He, in fact, invited her to a hotel for one last time of a conversation, and that was where he stabbed her 17 times. He fled the scene and only later called the police. Horrifying end there to this relationship that eventually led to this fatality. And there's really nothing bigger than the Bengaluru Stampede story in Karnataka's Bengaluru. We're looking at Siddaramaiah and DK Shivkumar, who've now been summoned by the Congress High Command. The political heat is, of course, rising in Karnataka in the wake of the Chinnaswamy Stadium Stampede tragedy that has claimed 11 lives. June 4th was really a black day for Bengaluru, for Karnataka. Now, in a major political development, the Congress High Command has summoned Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and Deputy DK Shivkumar to Delhi. The move comes as Siddaramaiah continues to face mounting pressure and criticism over what happened. The BJP and the JDS, the opposition, intensifies their attacks on the Congress, demanding that Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, no less than him, should resign. Siddaramaiah, of course, holding his ground, denying responsibility, saying it's not me to be held responsible. In fact, we know that the government in Karnataka has already suspended the police commissioner. A series of top cops have arrested the RCB representative, DNA representatives, and right now they're on the hunt for KSCA officials who an FIR has been filed against. So here the Karnataka government has blamed everyone else except for itself. The Chief Minister Siddaramaiah maintaining that the state government did not organize a celebration. It was RCB who pushed for it and asked to hasten the process, considering some of the players had to leave, including Virat Kohli, who had to leave to London. Siddaramaiah also hinted at now that there's a lot of flack, some long-term solutions, that Chinnaswamy Stadium can be actually moved out, or rather cricket matches should be moved to another location where there's a lot more space. Stampede situation like this can be avoided. Both the CM and the Deputy CM have emphasized that police department failed to communicate full details of security arrangements before the event. Basically, there is now a letter that exposes the Karnataka government where a cop himself has raised red flags in a written letter, and that's the letter we are flashing for you on our screens here, where a police officer who warned very clearly that holding victory celebrations of the RCB at the grand stairs of Vidhan Sauda and one at Chinnaswamy Stadium would be difficult as the police were stretched thin. They were overworked after the victory of RCB the previous night, and it would have been hard, it will be hard to pull off this victory celebrations because there's not enough forces. In fact, this was a clear letter that was shot off in response to a request from the KSCA. The letter was sent back, a reply was sent to the KSCA from the police department. Now, yet the KSCA and the government went ahead with it. At this point, the Karnataka High Court is listening to multiple petitions as well, seeking to quash FIR against them. DNA networks, the event organizer and RCB representative who has been arrested in this case, Nikhil Sosle, both have challenged their arrest. They claim that they are being falsely implicated, that they had clearly communicated online, that only limited passes were available. Even free passes, they claim, required pre-registration. That's what they claim. They say that we did not send out mixed signals. Our messaging on our platforms was as clear. But here you see Nikhil Sosle on our screens as well, RCB representative who's been arrested. A whole bunch of them who've been taken into custody, at least 4 of them, another 4 who are currently absconding. All of them want FIRs against them quashed, saying we are not responsible. It was Karnataka government's, it was within their ambit to ensure law and order. How can you hold us responsible? The Karnataka High Court, of course, to take up this case very soon. And multiple questions will be answered. Hopefully, the court will finally decide on whether these people are responsible or if cases against them should be dropped. They are all currently in 15-day judicial custody. So questions, of course, still remain. Who decided to actually give a go-ahead? A green light was given by someone from the government. Who was that? Was any permission actually sought by these organizers in written to hold that event? And if there was no written permission, then how did the police actually allow that event to take place in the first place itself? You had DK Shivkumar also part of the celebration in Chinnaswamy Stadium. So if there was no permission, why did DK partake in an event as big? Let's wait and watch what the court has to say. A very tragic incident that's happened in Mumbai, the Mumbai local trains, where we hear a bunch of people fell off due to overcrowding while the train was on the move. 5 people have died. This tragic morning for Mumbai's lifeline, the local trains. Horrific mishap near Mumbra railway station left 5 people dead, several others injured. What was supposed to be, of course, just another Monday commute has turned fatal for them after reportedly some people were trying to hang over the foot of the train right at the entrance, where while the train was speeding, it almost collided with another train coming from the opposite direction. In fact, those people who tried to save themselves jumped off and died. The accident occurred around 9 a.m. between Diva and Mumbra stations when passengers were trying to hang off that footboard of a Kasara-bound train that collided with commuters on another train heading to CSMT. According to railway sources, overcrowding has played a major role in this tragedy. Let's hear it.
The thing what has happened is people who were travelling, there have been incidents where 8 people who were travelling on local trains between Mumbra and Diva have fallen down. This information or this incident was reported by guard of Kasara bound local train. These people have been rushed to hospital for their treatment. This incident has happened between Mumbra and Diva stations on down fast line, and what has been primarily informed till now is that those people who were travelling towards Kasara and another train which was travelling towards Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus Mumbai, and these people who were travelling on the footboard have collided as such with each other. There was no accident, but people who were travelling on footboard, they hit each other, and this has resulted into falling down of 8 people as per the information available.
Now, the Central Railway and local police have rushed to the spot. Rescue and relief operations went on through the day today. In fact, services were impacted. Some of the local trains were also cancelled post this tragedy. Reacting to the tragedy, Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde has assured medical treatment is being prioritized. Compensation will be provided.
बहुत ही आपने बताया, मुझे भी पता चला है, अभी उसकी जानकारी हम लेते हैं। जो जख्मी है उनकी जान बचाना, उसको प्रायोरिटी हम देंगे, और निश्चित रूप से इसमें जो मृत हुए हैं उनको भी जो शासन दे या मदद जो है रेलवे की तरफ से किया जाएगा, शासन के माध्यम से किया जाएगा, लेकिन जो घायल है उनको बचाना, उसको हम लोग प्रायोरिटी देंगे।
Well, Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, meanwhile, has shared his condolences on the X platform, calling this incident unfortunate. The tragedy has also drawn criticism, with Shiv Sena UBT leader Aditya Thackeray, in a strongly worded message on his platform, calls this heartbreaking, blaming infrastructure negligence. That's what he says, blaming the government for it. As the grief now gripping the city, we are looking at multiple questions being asked as to whether this incident could have really been avoided. We hear that there is now a decision or consideration to have closed doors at Mumbai local trains. Whether it's possible now, will that railway infrastructure really allow it for Mumbai locals is something that we've got to wait to see. A probe has been ordered into exact cause of this shocking accident. How was this train overcrowded? Cutting to a big tragedy that's yet again haunting the marine life in Kerala. A major maritime emergency is unfolding off Kerala coast. Singapore flagged container vessel MV Wanhai 503 has caught fire following multiple explosions, triggering a massive rescue and firefighting operation by the Indian Coast Guard and Navy. The Kerala State Disaster Management Authority has clarified there's no threat to coastal areas that's been reported yet. Vessel was en route from Colombo to Mumbai when this disaster struck around 40 kilometers west of Bepore Azikal stretch in Arabian Sea. There were 22 crew members on board, mostly Taiwanese nationals, as part of the Indian Coast Guard. 18 have been rescued, 10 of them using a lifeboat, 8 in a life raft. However, 4 of them remain missing. 2 Taiwanese, 1 Indonesian and 1 Myanmarese. In fact, tragically, 5 of the rescued have injuries as well, with 2 crew members suffering severe burns. The fire broke out, we hear, at 9:30 a.m. after multiple explosions were reported on board. The ship was carrying around 650 containers, of which 50 are believed to have fallen into the sea. The Indian Coast Guard's emergency response swung into action immediately. Multiple ships, including the ICGS Sachet, Armvesh Samudra Prahari and Abhinav, as well as Rajdoot and C-144 aircraft, are part of this high priority operation currently, trying to, of course, find for those missing and to see how this has impacted marine life. The Indian Navy too diverted INS Surat, and preparations are currently on for sorties from INS Garuda. The Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre in Mumbai has also diverted a merchant vessel, MV-1 Marvel, which helped rescue 18 crew members from the burning ship. Taking you through what's happening in the United States. We are looking at the worst ever in recent times, protests, or rather riots, if I could call them, in Los Angeles after immigration crackdown took an ugly turn. Los Angeles is, of course, burning with rage. What started as anger over sweeping federal immigration raids has now entered day 4 in Los Angeles, morphing into one of the most intense episodes of civil unrest in the city's recent history. Downtown LA is a war zone as it appears. Tear gas clouds the air. Protesters have torched dumpsters, shattered storefronts, even set driverless vehicles ablaze. Protesters there really currently at this point indulging in violence that we may not have seen in recent times in Los Angeles. Molotov cocktails hurled at officers. Fireworks, of course, we saw, not the celebratory kind, but straight, that's being launched at police lines. A protester rammed into one of the police vehicles as well. That's how aggressive protesters have turned. In fact, over 27 people have been arrested, with LAPD calling the violence disgusting, admitting that they are overwhelmed. The city has now been declared an unlawful assembly zone. In a dramatic escalation, Donald Trump has deployed 300 National Guard troops to Los Angeles without Governor Gavin Newsom's consent, preparing to activate another 500 Marines next. So Trump really taking the governor, the state head on. They're, of course, cracking down on immigration, but the method is unlawful, is what people protesting there have said. Governor Newsom has called this move as unconstitutional, vowing legal action against Trump administration. Local leaders too are currently livid. Paramount's mayor says military buildup in small towns is intimidating and erodes public trust. There's growing concern over the role of outside agitators as well, with intelligence reports now flagging the presence of professional rioters who may be hijacking this protest. But civil rights experts have cautioned that these labels, calling these protesters, legit protesters, as outsiders, has been a long-used way of discrediting organic uprisings. These protests don't stand alone. The echo at this point, Los Angeles' long and painful history of resistance. From 1968, Chicano, we saw similar protests that took place, to Rodney King riots of 1992, all the way to 2020 George Floyd protests. Los Angeles has seen one of the biggest uprisings in the United States, and this time it's yet another one, an immigration flashpoint. And let me tell you, over 1,080 Indians alone have been deported from the United States this year. Viral videos show young students, some in tears, being shackled and sent home like criminals. That's one of the video there that's emerged, going viral in Newark Airport. One Indian was detained by the police, allegedly because he could not really respond in simple English why he's arrived in the United States, and because his answer was not satisfactory, we saw police there pinning him down to the ground at the airport itself, treating him like a criminal, and he was due to be detained post that, due to be deported. LA's police now taking this head on. We're looking at people of United States, many of them completely upset with this kind of deportation method, pushing back against what they see as racial profiling, unjust deportations, increasingly militarized state. Is this a fight for rights or a crackdown in disguise? Well, we've got to wait and see how people of the United States take this on. Donald Trump does not seem to back off. He's very clear that those not wanted in America, those immigrants who are not able to explain themselves to why they are in the US or have proper documentation or whatever, just being part of a protest is enough for them to be deported. That's what Trump is doing, but people in LA now really coming out in numbers to challenge this. Taking you through a story that's really shaken the entire Israel region, where you have the most popular environmentalist, Greta Thunberg, we hear, who's one of the most world's environmental voices, known environmental voices in the world, currently in Israeli custody. She was aboard the Madeleine, a Singapore-flagged aid ship intercepted by Israeli forces in international waters near Gaza. The vessel was part of the Freedom Flotilla coalition, carried some symbolic humanitarian supplies for Gaza, including baby formula, rice, medical kits, bound for the war-ravaged enclave. Greta Thunberg, who was in it, called this interception as kidnapping and urged Sweden to intervene. Israel insists that the activists have been treated well, they've been given food and water, are now being deported. Of course, at this point, Israel also defending the raids as part of its naval blockade on Gaza, accusing the flotilla ship sent by Singapore of political grandstanding under the guise of aid, calling it a selfie yacht. Because you had some pictures that were being taken there on that ship. So according to Israel, this was nothing but a selfie yacht. You're trying to pretend to send aid to Gaza, but all you wanted was to take pictures and defame us. Flotilla organizers, meanwhile, say that this was a peaceful legal mission. Let's hear it.
We have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
Well, clearly diplomatic seas here getting rougher. Just weeks ago, another vessel from the same coalition, Conscience, was reportedly struck by Israeli drones off Malta. This latest standoff once again lays bare the global fault line. Humanitarian access or national security? What should come first? More than 1.1 million people in Gaza now face catastrophic levels of hunger, according to the UN. On that note, I'm slipping into a short break, coming back with a really heartwarming story of a couple who had a live-in relationship for over 50 years, finally got married in their 90s. Is the institution of marriage itself diminishing over live-in? We're going to take you through a heartfelt conversation on the other side. Stay with us.
Silence of the night, where the roads carry.
Let there be dark. Scorpio and Carbon is here, the big daddy of SUVs.
जो पहले से चल रहा है वही लगाना था.
इनको जमाने से पीछे चलने दो. आप चुनो नया बिरला ओपस पेंट्स.
Every brand tells a story. They are the storytellers, the Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brandwalas.
Is life transactional by any chance?
Everything in the creation affects everything else.
I think the existential question that all of us grapple with, that who am I?
From being somebody to becoming nobody is the first step in enlightenment.
Watch Duologue with Barun Das at these times on News 9.
Welcome back. Let's take you through a very beautiful love story here that's warmed hearts across India. 95-year-old Rama Bhai Kharari finally tied the knot with his 90-year-old partner Jeewali Devi in Rajasthan's Dungarpur. After nearly 70 years of living together, they've now decided to get married. They've in fact raised 8 children without marriage. And they had a big joint family, all of it. They really went the whole hog, except for actually tying the knot. The couple never officially married and they decided it that way despite being a very traditional setup. It was beautiful to see. They're surrounded by generations of love and finally they've decided, I do. But beyond the viral pictures and that emotional warmth, of course, many questions now raised over society and its view of love, view of marriage and companionship. Do we overvalue the idea of wedding ceremony altogether? Does a piece of paper really validate love, or is it just tradition? Well, we're looking at more young Indians as of today are opting to skip the big fat Indian wedding altogether. In fact, we have some data there that also reveals this shift. According to a study by Lionsgate Play and Ormax Media, 1 in 2 Indians believe live-in relationships are important before making a long-term commitment. 34% of them say that their parents are now open to live-in relationships. 37% of them think it's okay to live in even post-breakup. And 72% say financial stability, of course, is a must before entering a relationship. So basically, the institution of marriage itself, in a way, is dwindling as more and more youngsters today and families altogether are okay with people waiting a little, understanding their partner. Maybe that wait could go many, many years, but they're really okay to wait and test it out. 72% of people aged 33 to 38 say that it's easier to break up than fix a bond. Well, 53% of women say, move on, forget the ex. 66% of men say that they are still open to rekindling old love. So basically, in a way, this whole one man, one woman marriage bond seems to be entirely changing, shifting. Divorce rate in India is currently rising, especially in urban pockets. The number of divorcees have doubled in the last 2 decades, according to a UN data. Even rural India is slowly seeing a rise in separations. 1 in 4 young Indians say that they don't want to marry altogether. Women are more likely to reject arranged marriages than men. That's what a study says. And many don't even want children. And they're very clear about it. So what does all of this mean for the idea of love today? Is it freer or more fragile? Well, let me quickly bring in Dr. Kirtana for a little more elaborate. Dr. Rachna Khanna, who joins us, a psychologist and founder director of Mind and Wellness Studio. Thanks very much, Dr. Rachna. A quick take on the psychological shift or just the fact that people today have decided that love does not mean marriage. They've acknowledged that and they're now decided to move on as a live-in partner, and when time comes and if time comes, if they want to, they will tie the knot. This whole shift mentally, how would you view it?
Absolutely, and I think you've stated all such beautiful statistics which are really showing that the institution of marriage by itself now doesn't hold that much of value. There is a mental shift, and specifically coming in millennials and Gen Z. And as we see that there are varied types of relationships that they would like to keep, and they would like to, they would like to explore. So from the aspect of a lot has changed post-COVID and during COVID, because people were stuck inside, and there is a general shift in the mindset, and we saw a large number of cases of divorce being filed in. There is a general shift, and there is a trend towards dating. So once there is a lot of horizons have opened up, while Gen Z and millennials are very open towards dating, and there are different types of relationships. Like I said, they are exploring relationships like situationships, and then there is live-in relationships. People are also exploring the latest format, which is living apart together. So for various different people, various different types of relationships are working. Marriage by itself is, as you're seeing, even in many South Asian countries, it's a dwindling institution, and that is why today, even in countries like Japan, Korea, we see that they are not getting married. The fertility rates are dropping. So yes, we are seeing that there is a similar mindset happening in India as well, and that is why now, although a live-in relationship doesn't have a legal status, but Karnataka, as you're quite aware, is one such state which gave almost, they didn't give a legal status, but they also gave a recognition to a live-in relationship. Yeah. That's because there is so much of change in the mindsets.
What in your view is love? How do you define love, Rachana? For you personally, and how do you see people looking at love today? That whole theory of marriage itself now seems to be busted, with multiple surveys that claim that people are not prioritizing marriage, and marriage does not equate love.
Absolutely. So, I think people are, I think love is a subject so widely spoken about, and yet there is no specific answer to it. But having said that, the fact that now love has become very situational and conditional vis-a-vis how we were raised as a generation. If you see Gen X, and you see the generations before that, it was a single partnership, monogamy. Now there is various different kinds of sexual explorations. There is polyamory, there is solo polyamory. There is people are into very many different types of relationships. And then, of course, we are talking about homosexual relationships. We're talking about very different kinds of relationships today. So people are willing to explore their sexual side, their sensual side, their side of love, and the commitment. So now, any relationship takes a large amount of hard work to maintain, and I see the newer generations not wanting to put in that much of work for the maintenance of the relationship. And of course, we have this, we have now, life is a lot about instant gratification. Now, whether we order food at the drop of a button on a Zomato or a Swiggy, or we can swipe a partner on a dating app. So, or we can just call for something right away on a Zepto or a Blinkit. So our brains have started to recognize instant gratification, which is not a very good thing. But having said that, that is exactly how the new generation is viewing love also. So yes, independence, freedom.
While on the legal aspect of it, Dr. Rachana, for the moment, let me bring in Rekha Agarwal, who's an advocate, a Supreme Court, joining us, and also a social activist herself. Ms. Rekha, would you say that a person's commitment to love is any less if there's no legal bond or legal backing?
Can you just repeat what you said? I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
Does commitment mean any less without legal backing in today's day?
That's a very tricky question, because I do think that a commitment is necessary, and if a legal commitment is there, it kind of psychologically it kind of binds you down, but as the previous speaker Rachana was espousing her views, I think that as a lawyer, if I would say that and I put in a number of years now, large number of years in the legal profession and in the family law particularly. So the way the marriages are breaking apart, that certainly love has got nothing to do with a legal, relationship that two persons may be having. So, if you just got a stamp that yes, so and so, I'm married to, this is my husband or this is my wife, and that just it may be kind of a legal commitment, a legal binding, but love certainly is not guaranteed if a man and a woman are married. And the number of marriages that are breaking apart, as a family lawyer, I would say that just one visit to the family court, say in a metro city like Delhi, and I'm talking not only about the metro cities, but even tier 2 and tier 3 cities, where now it seems that marriage as a legal relationship has really lost its meaning. It is just something which probably your parents get you to do it because that is a societal norm, or because even if it's a love marriage, your parents haven't got you together. But at that time, probably everything seems very hunky-dory, and it seems that, okay, if I'm married to such and such person, my life is guaranteed, happiness is guaranteed, love is guaranteed, but it doesn't come automatically. Marriage is, it is a lot of commitment, and just a stamp, it doesn't kind of give you that kind of pressure, to give a full, in terms of your heart, your soul, your commitment. As I say, you have to give your blood, sweat, and tears to this relationship. And I don't think that in the current setup that we are in, the way society is moving, and as Rachna ji was talking about, the feeling of instant gratification, which is really which is not a very positive thing, I would say, is something just like Nescafe. Okay, you make instant coffee, but it's not the same as a brewed coffee, or as a filtered coffee. So I think that
when it comes to women, I'm really keen on asking. Of course, I could count myself one among those who probably think that marriage is overhyped, and so is motherhood. But Dr. Rachna, I could be one of those few, but looking at the survey numbers, it seems like those few are growing to be a large number.
So Nabila, just to add to what you're saying, you do know the latest study which is rotating everywhere is a study which is saying that by 2030, 45% of women in India are going to be single. And so that means, and a large portion of them are going to do it by choice. So 2030 is not far away at all. And the stats are huge. So, so this is, so, I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot, I would say, rather than cascading downwards, it's cascading upwards. So Gen Z and the millennials have opened their eyes to Gen X also. And now we see Rekha ji would be very aware, because we do go very often to the family courts also. So she would be very aware that there are lots of couples who are filing for divorce after being married for 20 years plus, which are people which is Gen Z.
If I may just add to what Rachna is saying over here, the very term that grey divorces have come up, I'm glad that Rachna ji's brought it up. Now I think happiness, the word happiness, that, I want my own space, I want my own me time, I want my own, I want my own peace. So those things have taken a priority over, over something which a marriage requires. It's a long-term commitment. You have to give your whole into it. I mean, if you're not ready for marriage, if you're not ready to commit, if you're not ready to kind of give the time and energy that a marriage requires, then I think that nobody should get into it. And even now, the concept of live-in relationships also, I think more and more as a lawyer, as I see that, it is ultimately it becomes nothing but, I think the love is the first casualty which goes flying out of the window in any relationship. And then ultimately it becomes nothing but, something is like a bargain, you want a divorce, it ends up in a divorce by mutual consent. Huge amount of money is exchanged, or rather given by the boys.
Is that the dissuading factor, Rekha? I was just getting to that. Is that the dissuading factor that people are tied by such legal complications if they actually want to break up, and now they're all the more sure that a relationship is not meant to last a lifetime?
I mean, the way as a lawyer, as I see that the number of marriages which are falling apart, and it has got nothing to do with whether it is an arranged marriage or a love marriage, or whether the girl is working. Earlier the thing, if the girl is working, that the marriage may not survive because she's not devoting all her time, to the family. But whether it is a working girl or it is a non-working girl, whether it is old or young, or coming from a particular community, this is the so-called sanskari girl. girls that the Hindu girls are supposed to be, I mean, anything at all you say, it could be any religion, it could be any kind of a societal setup that you're coming from. Marriage is certainly, as an institution, absolutely lost its meaning. It's very, very sad, but the kind of commitment it requires, that is not there. We have lost. I would simply say that, we are running short of patience. Nobody is willing to give in that much of dedication, that much of time, that much of energy, that you have to there are a lot of sacrifices. You have to make that sacrifice to make any relationship work. Why only marriage? But when it comes to marriage, it may be difficult to break a friendship. Before you fall out with a friend, you may think twice. You may even patch up. But once a marriage goes sour, then nobody is willing to kind of, surrender. Nobody is willing to sacrifice. It all becomes me, myself. What is my happiness? I'm working the whole day long. I'm earning. I want my me time. Why should I be compromising? Why shouldn't my husband be giving equal time? To the child's studies, to the bringing up the child? Why shouldn't he be contributing equally to the family work? So many reasons could be there. Girls are now getting stressed out also because of the. I would certainly say that.
But when you say girls are getting stressed out, also for what makes me believe here is that it's largely the women's decision, or the survey clearly suggesting that women do not want to have kids as soon as one would hope that they would have. A lot of women do not want to go in for arranged setup. So it's the women's decision that seems to be changing the trend here, in a way.
Yeah, and if I may just add one more bit over here, that, the biological clock will start ticking once you get married for a girl. But now that clock also, I think, has stopped ticking. And, and gone are the days when the girls would be saying, oh, let me get married soon so that, I can have a child, within the so-called, a perfect time of having a baby. But now there's so many other options, surrogacy, IVF, adoption. So girls are becoming more and more open about
in their
it.
late 40s.
The girls are going and freezing their eggs. It's become like a norm. Oh, I've frozen my eggs. I don't have to worry. I'll have my baby whenever I want to. So there is no such thing. There's no compulsion. There's no compulsion either to get married, and there's no compulsion either to have a child as far as girls are concerned. So I think
with this regard, I feel it's a woman's world now.
It is, definitely. And all power to womanhood.
More power to women folk, no doubt. Dr. Rachna, a final word. As much as we see...
I think the only thing...
No, I just have a question though. I have a very pointed question. As much as we see a marriage really losing its sanctity, at the same time we're looking at a lot more psychotic cases of murder and obsession. I'm just basically revisiting the stories that I've taken on top of this hour today. Were two murder stories, both a couple, basically one couple, wife murders the husband because she may have had an affair with someone else. Another story where the man couldn't handle the fact that the woman was breaking away from him. This psychotic, obsessive cases leading up to murder, more number of such cases coming to light here, and that's really rattling. All right, we seem to have lost Ms. Rachla's line, but Ms. Rekha, do you want to dive in on that?
Yes, certainly. I would say that you're talking about, I think that it is, as I just said a minute ago, that we have lost our patience, and we're looking for instant gratification, Rachna ji said. So I guess in that speed that we are all in, the rush to have achievements and targets. So yes, I think your mental health, absolutely, is neglected. Not only your physical health, but your mental health is neglected. And I think that the pressure to get married for some girls, as has happened very recently in the Indore case, if I may say so, bring it over here, that God knows why the girls even get married in the first place, and then the pressure to,
So pressure from family members, I think, largely to be blamed. One knows that, youngsters usually find it very hard to say no to their parents, and then this is what eventually happens, because they're so scared of their parents, the way they've been brought up. They don't want to reveal details of an affair that they could be having, want to keep everyone happy and pleased, and then try to do this. I'm not basically concluding on this case. A police investigation is currently ongoing, but I thank both our guests. Thank you very much for joining us on this detailed conversation around marriage losing its sanctity, live-in relationships gaining popularity, divorce rates increasing, Well, according to our experts on the panel, it's all well. Well, let me now take you through a story that's really upset many of the working class people in India. Of course, this is a rule that's limited to Andhra Pradesh, but could this very well happen pan-India? Andhra Pradesh now asks for 10-hour work day. A major shift in Andhra Pradesh's labour policy has triggered political heat and backlash. Chandrababu Naidu's government has cleared a controversial proposal that private companies and factories in the state can now make employees work up to 10 hours a day. This is up from 9 hours that was designated earlier. The government claims this is meant to boost Andhra's ease of doing business, ranking. In fact, their ranking they wanted to increase on the map. So Andhra says our ease of doing business numbers should go up, and therefore we will allow companies to have people work 1 extra hour. But is that really so simple? Remember Infosys founder Narayan Murthy's explosive comment where he said Indian youth should really be ready to work up to 70 hours a week if the company wants to compete globally. The internet, of course, tore apart that idea, calling it exploitative. Now with Andhra Pradesh formalizing longer hours, critiques are, of course, calling this a push towards modern slavery. Well, here's what the government says. Andhra Pradesh minister who's defended the move says, this is a business-friendly step and this will only attract industries to the state. That's what he says. Nonetheless, let's bring in a little data here. The daily limit that now rises from 9 to 10 hours in Andhra Pradesh, overtime now kicks in only after 144 hours, up from 75 hours. So that's how much extra work that people will have to put in. Unions fear this could lead to 12-hour days with no checks. Women now can work night shifts, or they will be asked to work night shifts. And this will, of course, push women out of the workforce. Now, overlapping shifts are also allowed, raising burnout and safety concerns as part of this ruling. All of this comes ahead of a nationwide workers' strike that's been scheduled on 9th of July against the centre's labour reforms. So who really gains from Andhra's new work culture? Let me bring in Kiranpreet Kaur, Global HR and Talent Voice, joining us. We also have Nalamotu Chakravarti, who's a political analyst, for a little more. Kiranpreet, as someone who, you're a headhunter, you know very well what an extra hour of work would mean. Is this policy modernizing work culture or pushing workers to the brink?
Well, thank you so much, Nabila, for having me. First of all, I think this is a double-edged sword because while we're trying to boost our industrial productivity, but in sanctity, it's just going to impact worker well-being, and the long-term talent sustainability will become questionable. Just because we're, of course, comparing with Vietnam, China, we're forgetting that there are those industries where they're moving to 4-day culture instead of 5 days, 6 days, and in fact, just to give you an example, a company in China, came up with the burnout issues despite being a global tech supplier, just because of the extended work hours. So I think even the WHO report, says that more than 55 hours a week increases a lot of health issues. So while the idea is to boost industrial outputs, I think it should be more towards incentivizing rather than fixing people with rigid shifts, because this could also lead to a lot of women drop out from the industry, which could again make it a gender sensitive issue. My take is that while of course the idea may be noble, but the implementation could be of high risk.
As a political analyst, sir, how would you look at Chandrababu Naidu's policy here? Of course, we saw Narayan Murthy being slammed for asking Indians to work 70 hours a week if they wanted to be competitive. Andhra Pradesh also inching towards the same policy, saying we want to increase our rankings to become the best state when it comes to ease of doing business. But what kind of pressure would that put on the workforce at large, in your view?
I'm a champion of free markets, so I wholeheartedly endorsed what the state government has done. But let's be clear here, the government is not forcing anybody. They have increase the number of hours that workers can be allowed to work to 10 hours. In fact,
to then
I
squeeze the employee force.
No, employees are not being forced to work for 10 hours. Earlier, there is a government-imposed cap on how many hours a worker can work. And then these rules are outdated, and these rules have actually have caused India to fall behind China and many other countries, especially in the manufacturing sector. If you look at any of the number of the developed countries, whether it is United States, Singapore, Hong Kong, I think South Korea now is trying to increase. Many of these countries don't have any limit on the number of hours. The government has a rule in terms of overtime pay, whether it's overtime after 40 hours or 45 hours. Our industry and economy is burdened by these rules and regulations that the government has put in place. And over the last 2-3 decades, China has sprint ahead. Today, they are almost 5 times our economy. And if you look at the labor force, it is rapidly changing, and our laws are not able to keep up. Look at the gig workers. There are no hours. People are free to work for 2 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours. And IT revolution has happened more than 2 decades ago in India, and there are no work hours there. And people are working, and employees are putting tremendous pressure.
There are work hours for IT
companies.
employees. IT employees do have designated work hours. You can't go beyond that.
No, the government regulated hours are not there. IT is exempt for government. That is one of the part of the 1993 liberalization process where IT companies were encouraged, and some of these lower laws were exempt. IT companies are exempt for these companies, yet they have hours, as you rightfully pointed out. They have hours, which is employee and employer agreed upon hours. And today, if you look at the IT sector, the attrition rate is anywhere from 15 to 25%, depending on which year you're looking at. I think right after COVID, the attrition rate jumped to almost 25%, which means every 1 out of 4 employees have been changing jobs. And why are they changing jobs? For better working condition, better compensation.
Yeah.
But in the process, they put tremendous pressure on these IT companies to improve working conditions. So that is how worker conditions have to be bettered, but not by the laws. The government cannot pass a law and get the wages up, nor can it pass a law and then get their working conditions up. It can only come through productivity gains and competition for labor.
I just hope people enjoy working 9 hours as opposed to 8 hours. I'm not too sure if that will be the outcome, but we're not very high on the happiness index either. Thanks very much, both our panelists, for joining us on that. On that note, I'm going to wrap this right here. Thanks very much for tuning in. Same time, same place tomorrow. Have a great night.
$2.5 lakh strong legacy and counting. Join the big league with the XUV 700 with celebratory offers up to ₹75,000.
What is to the nines? In literal terms, it's perfection.